maybe what I'd point listeners to on this episode is another little election that's the fallout of the big election, which is the election for the Speaker's post in the Lok Sabha, which is the lower house of Indian Parliament, for whom people were voting for their members in this election. Why this matters is quite interesting, and one of those things we've talked about over the course of this podcast, which is that in addition to a genuine electoral contest, the BJP has often been very good at using other means to find a way to entrench its power. And one of those is to occasionally find ways to break or split rival parties, to find ways to get folks to jump over. I mean, this is not new and not unique to the BJP, but they've been particularly compellingly good at it. And obviously the temptation to do this in a result where they don't have a majority is really big. In the immediate aftermath of the results, there were lots of thoughts that the two smaller parties that have just, a total of 28 seats together might demand rather big ministries in government and so on. And what's ended up happening is that they haven't gotten major posts in the government. And so all eyes have sort of turned to the election for Speaker of the Lok Sabha, with the expectation particularly being that the TDP, one of those two big parties, will hope to get that post. Over the last couple of days, the India grouping, the opposition grouping that managed to get a much larger result than everyone expected, said that they would support this small party's candidate. Now, I'll just explain why all of this matters. It might sound like pretty arcane, electoral maneuvering after the elections. But as I mentioned, the BJP is good at breaking parties and has done that tactically over the past. The person who gets to decide whether a party is split, whether a party is actually properly divided, whether it was done legally, or just sit on those decisions, those questions of disqualification, is the Speaker of the House. Often at the state level, this has been politicized majorly to prevent certain parties from splitting by saying that they didn't follow the rules, or just sitting on questions of whether if they broke the whip and so on. India has something called the anti-defection law, which was meant to stop the going back and forth of leaders over the years. But that has given a lot of power to the Speaker because if you fall afoul of the anti-defection law, you're disqualified as a member. And so it's quite a strong little thing. And so it's this very curious moment where potentially an ally of the BJP to come to power might seek out this post simply because they'd be afraid that their own members might be pushed by the BJP to ensure that it has majority and is not reliant on this party. It's a fascinating, one of those slightly more inside baseball, so to speak, bits, but speaks to some of the larger things. And since we are the election tricycle, it is a little election that's coming up. The election itself is on the 26th of June, so in about a week's time.